Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So, oh man, well, unfortunately, as we've been talking about that 150 level. If it breaks, not good. Unfortunately, today we did break it, which is why today we have essentially, arguably a crash on Tesla, going down 8% while the market was essentially flat, which is quite unbelievable. To say that's an underperformance is an understatement, right? That is an absolutely cataclysmic underperformance to the market. So clearly, people are probably selling, institutions might be exiting, and or there's people that are getting margin called. People are panic selling, maybe some capitulation happening. Man, who honestly knows? But 8% on a flat market day is quite the underperformance, to say the least. Now, it's pretty unfortunate because, like I said, we pretty much held the 150 level yesterday, and today we opened up below it, came up, couldn't even go back to 150, and then just got slapped back down. Exited this smaller. I'll explain all the lines I have. I'm going to delete some. That's why I have so many right now. So I want to delete these two right here, right? We were inside this, what should have been a bullish play out. We ended up actually dropping below it. And unfortunately, because we dropped below it, well, that's obviously quite bearish. So I'm going to delete that. That's essentially done. But the thing that's more important, arguably, is the slightly longer time frame, right? So there's a few things that happened that are not good. Let's just say that. So first and foremost, right, this yellow line is the one I had before, where it was kind of that bullish wedge. In theory, of course, again, like I said, just because it's a bullish wedge, it doesn't mean it has to play out in the bullish aspect. Clearly, it did not so far, right? But the point is the fact that, this yellow line was the one I had before, where we were kind of, bouncing in between this little area here, and it was getting tighter, and then, ideally would have bounced off of here, which so far looked pretty okay yesterday, right? We came pretty much down right to it, bounced off, looked pretty, pretty decent, closed at pretty much 150, and it looked like, yeah, you know what, there is still very much a possibility that we get a, a nice bounce from here finally. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and instead what we got was we opened up a little bit lower. We couldn't really rally up, couldn't even gap fill from yesterday's close, which is pretty disappointing as well. And then we just got completely crushed and pretty much went right below this yellow line. And essentially, there's a couple more things. So, the question, of course, is all hope lost? No, but it's not looking good. But now, essentially, the way I'm looking at it now is this. We have this blue line, right, that we have are essentially within, which is something else that you can definitely take a good look at, that we are still technically in, which could be like, a very small glimmer of hope. But like, again, I'm just I'm scratching the bottom of the barrel here, let's be completely honest, right? So pretty much what I wouldn't be surprised is maybe we get a retest of either this 150 or at the very least this yellow line over here at 143 before potentially, honestly, maybe even going lower, right? Now, the thing that's interesting is the fact that, so the bullish divergence is completely destroyed, right? You can even argue we actually made a lower low. So that's just, that narrative is just gone, which is, I'm not gonna lie, extremely disappointing. I don't know what the hell happened today, but the stock just pretty decent volume as well. People must have been getting margin called and capitulating, because I don't understand, because Elon, you have to keep in mind, guys, Elon is not allowed to do his selling that he's been doing for Twitter. He's literally locked out from selling, unless he, I guess, does it illegally, but he's locked out from selling. He cannot sell for Twitter until the earnings call for Tesla is done, which is the January 23rd earnings call, somewhere around there. But the point is, until like pretty much this second half of January, he's not allowed to sell like the way he has been. So this can't be an excuse of oh my god, Elon probably sold again. It in theory, at least, it can't be him. Something else happened here for sure. Question is what, right? I mean, God knows, right? So the way I look at it is this, right? So if you look back all the way here, which we're, believe it or not, we are pretty much back at 2020, October, November-ish, September to November levels, which is pretty wild to think about, but here we are. We are essentially approaching this major area of, where a lot of trading happened, right? Where we essentially did form a bullish wedge way back when, right, where it was something like along the lines of that, right, give or take, something like that. We broke out, and that's when Tesla continued this massive, crazy run, right? Now, this is where an area, of course, there was a lot of trading volume that happened and whatnot, right? And we are essentially right in the middle of it, which, is something to consider. And on top of that, we have officially pretty much, I would argue you can go a little bit lower, but we have more or less, arguably gap filled this gap right here that we had around, this kind of 136-ish, give or take a point or two. That has been more or less gap filled, right? So, I mean, there's that, I guess. I'm trying to scratch the bottom of the barrel, guys. It's pretty difficult, to try finding any bullish aspect right now, because just so many things have been destroyed and there's no real true sign yet still giving us a potential, yeah, this is the bottom. I mean, technically there's a possibility, but there's no like very obvious sign. Just as I said, there wasn't any up here, there wasn't any up here. There could have been a sign, and if there was going to be a sign, this up here, for instance, at 150, or this 166 to 167 level, definitely were the areas where, if there were to be a sign, this would be the place to finally make that sign, or to show that sign, or whatever, to develop it, whatever. We didn't, and unfortunately we kept falling lower, right? Of course, here was when Elon was selling, confirmed. And unfortunately, same thing happened today. Yesterday we had a pretty decent close, where it was, it's not amazing, but it was enough to still have hope, essentially, right? It was still enough to be like, okay, there's still definitely a possibility we get a nice bounce from here. Clearly not, right? So this is the next level I'm looking at now, right? I definitely want to see this level right here hold. If we don't, we're going to 130, then 120. It potentially can go even ultimately lower than that, right? So just, keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. There's, cheap can always get cheaper. And yeah, that's just kind of, I guess, more or less the way I'm looking at it. So we'll see where this actually overall takes us. Now, the one thing I also want to talk about is going to be just, sentiments, right? Now, whenever you're down on a stock, and don't get me wrong, guys, I'm down, a lot more than I would like to be. Let's just say that. It's very important to take, to not, I guess, freak out as hard as it is. Don't get me wrong, I'm not happy about this. I am very upset, unhappy in general, upset, whatever. But like, in terms of just like mental capacity or mental fortitude when it comes to something like this, right? It's always felt too easy. Back when we were still in the 180s and people were already freaking out, I'm like, man, I'm not freaking out at all. And even now I'm not like freaking out, but I'm just obviously not happy about it, right? But the thing is when you're putting in money, and again, nothing I say is financial advice, do your own research, make your own decisions. This is just how I personally like to think about it. The money you put into invest into a company, especially something as volatile as Tesla, is something that you should, or is money that you should not be needing in the near term, like for at least a year, in my opinion, right? Not money you need in at least a year. And this is the money I've personally put in Tesla, and I might even further put into Tesla. I have sold puts right now. Is money I don't need, right? It's money I don't need. It's money I can easily live without. And if worse comes to worse, I can just sell, a little bit of shares per month, let's say, to fund, just even living life, essentially, like absolute worst case scenario, which I don't even see happening. But, in theory, right? Of course, you always want to think about that kind of stuff. So it shouldn't be money you need. So, if you're freaking out over this, then yeah, of course it sucks. It sucks to be down. You just want to exit this roller coaster ride. You just want to be out of this, you want to be out of this ride, essentially. This ride sucks, right? Naturally. But it's very important to try your best to keep emotions out, right? So again, the only reason you can get emotional is because maybe it's money you need for whatever reason. Maybe it's not money that you should have been playing with, right? Number one. Number two, maybe you're on margin, or maybe you have short-term options or something like that, where it's essentially on a time limit. If you're just holding commons, if you're just holding shares, there's no real time limit. In theory, you can hold it for the rest of your life, right? If you really wanted to, unless of course it goes bankrupt. But the point is when you're on your margin, when you're doing like short-term or even medium-term-ish options like calls or whatever, yeah, you are essentially on a time limit because it has to do something by a certain time. And if it doesn't, well, you essentially goes to zero, or you get margin called, which is essentially just as bad almost, right? And it's things like that can make people capitulate or freak out or whatever. So just keep that in mind. Like those are the things you want to try to avoid, right? Like I'm hurting as well, guys, but I'm not going into things like that, right? I am selling puts, right? I am playing with options. I am selling puts. But to me, the worst case scenario, as I've said several times, is if those puts end in the money, which the current ones I have are in the money, of course, or I am down on them. The worst case scenario to me is by January 20th, I'm forced to buy shares of Tesla at a price I honestly probably would have bought anyways, just to DCA regardless, right? So that's just kind of how you want to think about it. As much as this sucks, yes, of course it does. It absolutely blows, right? In every aspect possible. It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. It really is. It's not fun. But this is kind of what I was waiting for to happen, is these kind of levels I was personally kind of waiting to happen. I didn't think it would go this low. I thought 150 could have been potentially the bottom, but clearly not. But, the fact that we came down to these levels feels difficult. And I was waiting for it to feel difficult. And I still think it can get more difficult. Absolutely. I don't think this potentially is even the bottom yet, right? It can absolutely go down to like even 120. Maybe even like as worse as, all the way down here. Like this is not, especially the way it's trading, around 100-ish, right? Like right around this level, like 103, 104, maybe even like 112-ish right here. Not impossible. Like it's absolutely not impossible. Like just for fun, let's just see how much, in theory, if we go to 112, how much lower is that? That's another 18% drop, right? I mean, at this rate, Tesla can do that in 2 days, right? But the point is the fact that a big suggestion, by the way, and this is something I need to follow more strictly. Don't look at your broker account or, the account that shows how much money you have currently, like up to date based on today's closing price. Trust me, don't look at it. I promise you, it's a lot better if you just don't look at that. It's much, much better. I promise you guys. But yeah, it's just things like that. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, right? But ultimately, Tesla, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the chart still looks like dog shit. It really does. There's no real sign of the bottom yet. If there's potential signs of a potential bounce from this level right here, and if there was a level to bounce, this is essentially we just dropped to yet another level, because that's usually how it works. When one of the levels breaks below, like in this case 150, you just essentially go down to the next level. Let's see if there's any potential buying pressure there. If not, okay, let's go to the next level, and eventually it'll get to the point where it's just so damn cheap that people will start buying, regardless of Elon essentially doing really stupid things like constantly selling in a very stupid way where people can just front load it with shorts, and suddenly you're pretty much stuck in a situation where no real institution is going to want to buy it, because why would they buy it when for all they know Elon's going to sell in the next month or something like that, right? Until that's confirmed that it's done and he's not selling anymore, we're going to see weakness. We are going to see weakness, which sucks. It absolutely blows, but it is what it is, right? We can either cry about it or we can accept reality and try to at least make something of it, right? But anyway, that's kind of how I'm trying to look at it. I'm trying to keep be as cool-headed as I can. It's not money I personally need, and at this point it becomes a waiting game, truly. Obviously DCA, if you need to, again, not financial advice, make your own decisions, do your own research. But I wanted to kind of add in a little bit of that as well, a little bit of, I guess, psychological, thinking, if you will, or analysis almost, about just stock market in general, and especially something as volatile as Tesla, right? It's an exceptionally volatile stock, as we can clearly see. It can rally up 8%, it can drop 8%. Let's just take a look out of curiosity. Ever since back at this 300, this was back in September of 2022, September, October, November, December. It's been about 3 months. It's been about 3 months. Hard to believe it's been 3 months. In the 3 months, Tesla has fallen 56%. In 3 months, it's fallen almost 60%. That's pretty wild, right? That's pretty wild. And back here, I was calling that it's going to crash, though I will be completely honest. Not only did it drop a little bit farther than I expected it to, but the biggest thing to me is that it happened substantially faster than I expected it to. I did not think we would collapse this fast, but we did. So, it is what it is. Something, it's a learning lesson for me, I guess, right? I didn't think, that's why I'm kind of, down on shares as well, mainly because it just happened substantially faster than I expected it to, and it really truly caught me off guard as well. But we'll see, guys, we'll see. Yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to say. And again, if we're at another level of potential bounce, again, you just keep going level by level. If this is a level that we don't bounce at, okay, then that means we probably go another level further, so on and so forth. But until we get an actual sign, an actual candle, or something that is just very more obvious that this is the potential either a bottom or a short-term bottom, and ready for bounce, then I'll let you guys know. But again, like I've said several times, nothing has really given this such a thing yet, right? Unfortunately, which really sucks. Like, this was an okay candle. We did get decent green days from them, but they're not like extremely convincing just yet. And in my opinion, until we break out of this blue line, until we can truly break out of this, I don't think there is one. So we'll see, guys. I'll keep you guys updated as to what I'm seeing, but it is tough times. Just make sure, trust me, don't look at your account. Trust me, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Forget about it. Don't look at it. Check back in 2 years, and it'll probably be even lower. I want to say it's a joke, but honestly, at this rate, who knows? But yeah. Anyways, that's kind of what I'm seeing, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Thanks for watching. See you for the next one. Peace.